So when a clue appears on the screen, you have a matter of seconds to decide whether to buzz in, what kind of approach you're going to take. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, for sure. So my process with the clues is I always wanted to read the clue as fast as I could, typically substantially faster than the pace at which the host is reading it, because I wanted to have a response primed and ready to go for as many clues as possible, so that when it actually came time to ring in on the buzzer, I did not actually have to think anymore about, well, what is the response? Do I want to ring in? I just had to focus on timing. And so I think that that's why my accuracy on the show was relatively good, is because I knew that for me, it was not going to be a viable strategy to just ring in and then use that 5 seconds once you ring in to come up with the response. Like, I would just be swinging and missing if I did that. For other people, it works fine, but for me, not so much. So yeah, the other thing as well is that I was really looking for, are there hints in this clue that the writers have left there to help me be able to get to that correct response? Because sometimes there's a piece of trivia and a clue that'll be really obscure, but then there's one word in there that's sort of pointing you in the right direction. And that's something that I think I was only able to do because of looking at a lot of old game material the couple of weeks before the show. Like, if I had had the opportunity to maybe practice over the course of a couple games, I could have picked it up organically, perhaps. But that's, I think, really the key to success, is being able to actually parse what's being asked for, because sometimes there's a lot of complex wording and what's being asked for is actually really simple.
Mm-hmm. And the categories, they range from very clear to somewhat ambiguous. How do you approach choosing where you want to start answering questions?
So I do not like choosing the ambiguous ones first, because you really don't know what you're going to get. And so it's difficult to make calculated decisions of, like, if you get a daily double in that category, what are you going to wager? Like, what if that's the first clue you find and you have no idea what it's going to be? So my tendency, and I wavered from this a little bit as time went on. Sometimes I started picking categories that I was not as strong in to just get rid of them on the board earlier. But at the beginning, at least, I was gravitating towards things where I knew I was going to probably have a response to all the 5 clues. So if I saw something that was like world capitals, or I don't believe this actually happened, but if I had been lucky enough to get a whole category that was Canadian stuff, I would have gone there instantly.
Bam.
Because it's just, you have such an advantage on that over Americans, right? They might know a couple of things, but it might not come to them as quickly, right? Or they may just have not had the opportunity to study up on it before they go on. So that would have been like an easy decision to go to that. But yeah, in general, I wanted to gravitate towards things that I felt good about.
It's been so cool learning your story about what it's like to be on the Jeopardy set, what it's like to be in the game. But I want to learn more about you. You were an LSAT tutor, which is amazing. Do you feel like that's also prepared you for the game as well?
Yeah, in a manner of speaking. So I think a lot of what I end up actually trying to transmit to students is some of the same stress management stuff that I myself had to apply when I was at the game. So I think in terms of being really aware of how to take tests well, essentially, because Jeopardy is basically like a televised test with a lot more bells and whistles, right? That was very helpful. But I also think in terms of some of what I was just saying, of being able to read and parse things quickly, that's, again, a lot of what's being tested on the LSAT. And so because I'm teaching it to other people, I have to not just understand it well enough to be able to do it myself, but to be able to explain to others how you can cut through the noise and read what's sometimes pretty complicated writing relatively quickly and accurately. So it certainly doesn't hurt. I think that the sort of logical thinking and being able to break down sentences almost as though they're a puzzle, that's something that is helpful for Jeopardy, I would say.
Amazing. So if you were to give advice to anybody applying for Jeopardy right now, what would that advice be?
I would say try and absorb as much information as you can from as many sources as you can. I was not somebody who really studied aggressively for the show, except for in the 3 weeks between when I got the call to appear on it and when I actually taped for the first time. But I think that I'm generally a person that has my ears open and I want to learn more about all sorts of things. If I'm getting into a dispute with a friend about whether a certain event happened in, 72 or 73, I want to look it up and make sure that I remember for next time, right? So be open to knowledge from all sorts of sources, because you don't know what you're going to be asked about if you get the opportunity to go on the show. Don't avoid taking the test because of thinking that you don't know enough material. You probably know more than what you think you know.